This panda's newborn cub is lucky to be alive. She nearly died during a breech birth. She now joins a rapidly growing family of pandas, artificially created to save the species. But the process of producing pandas isn't simple, and meddling with Mother Nature can sometimes cause more problems than it solves. This remote part of Sichuan in western China is home to one of the world's most loved but endangered species. High on the edge of the Tibetan Plateau, the damp climate is ideal for growing bamboo and perfect for giant pandas. But there are still only around 1,600 giant pandas left in the wild, and although they've always been rare, they're now teetering on the brink of extinction. So here in the heart of the panda's natural homeland, the Wulong Conservation and Research Centre was created to try to produce more pandas. Although the demise of giant pandas is largely due to habitat destruction by humans, and Wulong wouldn't help wild pandas, it would be a first step towards preventing the species from dying out. A formidable task, since all previous attempts at breeding pandas in captivity had failed. Almost a quarter of a century later, Wulong has achieved what was once thought impossible. 2006 was the best year ever, when the centre produced 18 panda cubs. 1 year on, and 11 cubs have already been born, and as autumn approaches, more are expected. There are now more than 60 pandas at the centre, and another 70 live in zoos and reserves elsewhere. The sight of so many pandas clowning around might rouse the spirits of the most solemn cynics. But pandas are naturally solitary creatures, so these are scenes never witnessed in the wild. Passing the panda production test with flying colours, or even just in black and white, isn't as simple as it seems. The process of producing all these pandas brings all kinds of unforeseen problems. This is Lulu. Not a female panda, as the name might suggest, but a healthy adult male. Lulu is a star stud at Wulong, and the father of quite a number of the centre's panda cubs. He's testosterone-fueled testimony to Wulong's success, and in his own way, Lulu's done a great deal to protect pandas from extinction. This is Lulu's current passion. She's called Shi Mei, which means happy and lucky girl.
要主动和他配合，让他高兴了，他不让他完事了，还要相互就是玩耍，不打他的。像喜妹也有这样的声音，就是相互喜欢的声音。喜妹都有那种羊叫的声音，就是相互喜欢的表现。如果喜欢喜妹，就是表现得很烦躁。所以说平常我把露露关在外边，因为他要在这个门这里呢，他要在这边偷，因为他想到喜妹的圈舍里面去。这2个都是我在管理这2只熊猫，我很喜欢这2只熊猫。
But Wu's love is not enough for Lulu. The only female he really desires is Shimei, and this year, for the first time, he's been stopped from doing his thing by circumstances beyond his control. Some of the seeds of Lulu's success are scattered among Wulong's breeding pens, where the mothers came on heat as usual in the spring. They've since given birth to 10 cubs, and more are expected very soon. As Lulu's services aren't required again until next spring, he's now in a separate pen on the other side of the centre. Expected to bide his time eating bamboo, Lulu now spends many hours banging against the wall and door of his pen. All because of Shimei.
一般的情况下应该是春季发情，喜妹那个秋季发情，这在我们这里是第一个，是第一例，就因为我们这里条件有限。其他的，因为那边可以交配的是圈舍，都是快要产崽的，还有就产崽的，就是大熊猫都把圈舍占着了，因为怕影响它们生宝宝或者是怀了宝宝的，怕就是怕影响到它们，所以说就委屈了喜妹和露露。
Shimei's changed cycle was inconvenient for Wulong, and artificial insemination was highly unsatisfactory for Lulu. But the business of making panda babies means overcoming all kinds of obstacles that even Lulu might not normally encounter. If Shimei is carrying Lulu's cub, she won't display any symptoms for some time. And it will be difficult to know when to look out for those symptoms. A panda's period of gestation varies wildly from 3 to 5 months. The usual maximum pregnancy period for a few of the other pandas has almost expired, and they still haven't given birth. Yo-Yo is the only panda who still seems to be expecting. She's been pacing around her pen and is obviously restless. These are typical signs of a panda near the end of their pregnancy, but as yet, nothing more has happened, and no one knows if and when she'll give birth. Yo-Yo's keeper, Wu Dai-Fu, has worked at Wulong for more than 8 years. In charge of caring for the pregnant mothers and raising newborn panda cubs, Wu probably knows more about the pregnant pandas than almost anyone else here, and he's been keeping a close eye on Yo-Yo.
一般情况下，这个熊猫的这个怀孕期一般是在4到5个月，有些时候短一点呢，有80多天、90多天了。然后在那之前，一般就是最长的也就6个月左右吧，180天左右。
As it's the end of September and she was impregnated in April, Yo-Yo should be very close to giving birth. But the only way anyone can be really sure is with ultrasound. Yo-Yo has given birth before, and unlike some of the other pandas, has been trained to undergo ultrasound scanning. But she is still more reluctant to enter the cage than some of the other mothers. But her keeper Wu trained in the United States, where he learned and has since perfected a simple and unusual technique for persuading Yo-Yo to relax and remain calm.
这个声音就是我们这个做比操的时候培训的过程中所用到的那个声音，就是我们说把它当做这个，它就是一个桥梁，让这个人和动物之间，通过这种方式建立这种相互信任的这种关系，然后就让他明白，你只要做对了，然后一旦听到这个声音，你就会得到奖赏了，对。 声音是因为就是我们通过长时间，我都是用这同样的声音、同样的方式去做，那么他就完全明白。
With Yo-Yo calmed by the clicking and the scanning fully underway, Wu hands over to a colleague as he's anxious to see for himself if Yo-Yo is expecting. The scan shows she is pregnant.
小于12公分还没打完了吗？你那个？这个差不多了，前肢头，但是也差不多。哦，头发，那个是前肢吧？ 哦，这个有点大啊！应该10公分不止，那尾巴那个时间没到到现在。那差不多，那已经还是基本上已经到尾巴了。快了。
And the scan shows something even more significant.
双胞胎这个。今天只有一个单胎吧，其余全是双胞胎。
现在有点大。
Breeding panda twins has contributed enormously to Wulong's success. In the wild, pandas never raise twins and will always abandon one cub after birth. At Wulong, they've perfected a simple method of raising twin cubs called swap rearing, which has doubled the cub survival rate and had an obvious impact on the captive panda population. One cub stays with its mother after birth, and the other is nursed in an incubator. Then, every so often, they're swapped over. It's a simple technique and highly effective. And while it's their turn in the nursery, the cubs have a taste of one of the other things that have boosted their survival rate. The milk. A mixture of mother's milk and formula milk was initially developed by American biologists and perfected at Wulong, and it's improved the survival rate of panda cubs enormously. When a cub is with its mother, it suckles up to 14 times a day. As with humans, the mother's milk contains colostrum, which gives newborn cubs some protection against disease. So including this in the bottle-fed milk is essential. And the pandas seem to thrive on it.
这个熊猫是公主出生的一对双胞胎的其中一个， 它是第二代。它出生的时候比较重，180多克。
Usually newborn pandas weigh around 100 grams, so this cub was almost twice the normal weight at birth.
它母亲公主连续生了将近4胎了，连续将近5胎了。是，她母亲应该说算得上一个非常英雄母亲了。生的小熊猫非常多。
His mother may be a hero, but she still can't cope with 2 cubs at once. So the burden of bringing up extra babies is in the hands of Wulong's staff. And nursing cubs which would otherwise have been abandoned and died brings all kinds of responsibilities. Wei Ming and his colleagues have to become surrogate mothers to their young charges, cleaning, feeding, and even burping them. They must ensure that when a panda is in the incubator and not with its mother, it receives equal care and attention. In the wild, a female panda lives for up to 30 years. She gives birth around 7 times during her life, with a break of at least a couple of years in between. But in a bid to save the species and produce plenty of pandas as quickly as possible, some of Wulong's pandas, such as Princess, have given birth 4 years in a row. These are some of last year's batch of cubs, including Princess's offspring, and now they're all about a year old. They were separated from their mothers when they were about 6 or 7 months old, much younger than they would in the wild. Usually, a wild panda cub stays with its mother until it's around a year and a half. It's not natural, but neither is the breeding rate or the nursing of twins. So separating the cubs early means that mothers like Princess can rest before breeding again. And for the cubs, it means there are plenty of pandas to play with. But tucked away in a private panda pen on the far side of the centre, there's a lone panda cub. This is Ching Ching. Like the other adolescent Wulong panda cubs, Ching Ching was conceived in spring 2006. But unlike the other panda cubs, she's only half their age. So she's kept separately and plays with her keepers rather than her peers. Her isolation from the other adolescent pandas isn't ideal, and continual contact only with humans might affect her long-term behaviour. But while there doesn't seem to be anything particularly unusual about Ching Ching, if it had been left to Mother Nature, she might not even exist.
那个大熊猫确实是创造了一个奇迹。 也是我们这么多年研究大熊猫的这个工作，这个科研人员从未遇见的。那这个大熊猫啊，我想告诉大家，就是它，非常特殊的地方。这个大熊猫的妈妈是年龄达14岁的一个高龄的大熊猫。应该说，从这个熊猫的年龄上不算大，但是作为熊猫这个年龄段能够产崽。但是这个猫从4月初。 就是去年的4月初怀孕，这个发情，一直到秋季，一般来说是大熊猫产崽都在秋季嘛，我们都等了很久，超过200天是没有的。那这个熊猫应该说在今年的这个2月份 也就是中国的传统节日春节的时候，就有了临产表现。在2月24号就产下了可爱的宝宝。我们以算这个时间，大熊猫的怀孕期，这个怀孕期是达到了324天，这可以是创造了大熊猫这个繁殖领域的新的奇迹，也是。
The record gestation period seems to have had no detrimental effect on Ching Ching's physical development. But it's not hard to imagine the furore and concern if a human being was pregnant for twice the normal time. On its own, Ching Ching's mother's prolonged pregnancy is simply an unusual incident. But there are increasing signs that tackling the problem of pandas' extinction by treating the symptoms rather than the cause is giving rise to all sorts of oddities. Wulong has more than achieved its initial objectives. Some might dismiss the centre as just a glorified panda factory, but there's no doubt that Wulong's work means that the planet's panda population is safe. But while creating so many pandas solves one problem, it creates plenty of others. Catering for all the pandas and cubs is a constant headache. Wulong's pandas munch their way through thousands of kilograms of bamboo every single day, much of which has to be grown and collected off-site. And bamboo isn't very nutritious, particularly for pregnant and nursing mothers, so Wulong has had to cook up something special. Panda cake.
成分主要就是有大米粉、玉米粉，还有黄豆粉、竹粉。这些好处就是给熊猫进行补充营养。
Every day, the centre has to make around 40 kilos of panda cake.
这个窝头，就是还有一个作用，就是在熊猫不喜欢吃药的时候，可以把药放在窝头里面，然后给熊猫吃。
Giant pandas aren't cheap, and each year Wulong has to raise around $3.5 million for their upkeep. As China's national symbol, the pandas are of course supported by the state. Wulong also receives income from around 130,000 visitors who come to the centre every year from all over the world. They pay to see the pandas precisely because there are so many of them. Which gives rise to another major problem: where to put all the pandas, and how to accommodate and cater for all the people who come to see the pandas. As a result, Wulong is constantly on the move, with an obvious impact on the panda's surroundings. And there's always a worry that goodwill and money aren't the only things visitors might bring with them. Pandas are susceptible to all kinds of parasites, infection and diseases, including tuberculosis, hepatitis and even anthrax. The risks are heightened by so many pandas being confined together in a limited area.
你比如说大熊猫种群的安全，也是我们现在必须要考虑的一个因素。因为种群数量多了，这个种群密度大了，大熊猫就可能这个种群就可能发生一些传染性的疾病，那会对种群造成很大的威胁。所以，比如说这些东西啊，就刚才提的这两个方面。
As the tourist season finally ends, the crowds start to thin and drift away. Autumn draws on. And at the breeding pens, the panda birthing season is also coming to a close. While Yo-Yo's scan has confirmed she's expecting twins, 2 other pandas don't appear to be pregnant and are being moved. Even though Shishi mated with Lulu in the spring, unusually it wasn't a success. Yo-Yo's new neighbour is Duchess. A 4-year-old, she's one of Princess's first cubs and will join the breeding group next spring, when it's hoped she'll make Princess a grandmother for the first time. But Yo-Yo doesn't take kindly to the newcomer and makes her feelings felt. Duchess decides to keep out of Yo-Yo's way at the other side of her pen. Then suddenly, Yo-Yo stops growling at Duchess and starts making a different noise. She's moaning and showing the first signs of going into labour at last. The first task is to persuade Yo-Yo to go inside. They're cautious in case her condition makes her aggressive. It's not unknown for pandas to lash out and cause serious injury. In the wild, pandas retreat to a cave or den to give birth, and the indoor pen serves the same purpose. It also means that she's easier to reach if something goes wrong. Although Yo-Yo is obviously going into labour soon, her waters haven't broken, and that may take some time. Not that many of Yo-Yo's fellow residents are terribly concerned about time. Even in the wild, for up to 18 hours a day, a panda's pace of life is pretty slow. They eat efficiently and don't exert themselves too much. Late in the day, after Wulong has closed, there's a small patch of liquid on the floor of Yo-Yo's pen. Wu takes samples to check and confirms that Yo-Yo's waters have broken and she's going into the final stages of labour. It's after 6 in the evening and most of Wulong's keepers and staff have already left for the day. But even though this is expected to be the last birth of the season and nearly a dozen cubs have already been born, it's still a special event and many members of staff come back to the centre. There's a tense atmosphere because the last birth was a breach and the cub could have died. One of the problems of repeated success is there's a risk of regarding panda births as routine. At Wulong there's no room for such complacency, as even the best laid plans of men and pandas can go awry. Yo-Yo's labour is in stark contrast with Mau Mau's, the last panda who gave birth. She was quiet and reserved. Yo-Yo is highly agitated. She starts banging against the window. It's toughened glass and hopefully won't break or splinter. To everyone's relief, they don't have to wait more than a couple of hours for the first cub to be born. It happens suddenly, while Yo-Yo's back is turned. The keepers only know about the birth when the cub announces its own arrival. Once the cub has settled, they need to take it from Yo-Yo. Partly to check that it's okay, and partly to keep Yo-Yo free for giving birth to the other twin. But Yo-Yo, of course, doesn't know any of this, and naturally doesn't want to let go of her baby. But weak and exhausted by the labour, she's defeated by Wu's persistence. The cub is snatched away, leaving Yo-Yo looking bewildered and almost as if she'd imagined having a baby. Thankfully, the other young cubs in the nursery haven't started hearing yet and remain sweetly oblivious to the uproar from the new arrival. The checks at the nursery confirm that the cub is, as thought, perfectly healthy, and Yo-Yo can now have a break before giving birth a second time. No one knows how long or short that break will be. For hours, Yo-Yo dispels any doubts about the distress and agony of her labour. At midnight, 6 long hours after the first cub was born, the keepers decide to help Yo-Yo by inducing the second baby. The drug should take effect very quickly, within a few minutes. But a quarter of an hour later, it obviously hasn't worked, and Yo-Yo simply rolls over and eventually goes to sleep, while her keepers struggle to stay awake. Finally, after dawn breaks, at around 5:30, "12 hours after Yo-Yo's first cub was delivered, its twin has been born." But the silence is ominous. The cub is stillborn. Then, to the keeper's horror, he realizes that Yo-Yo isn't licking the cub anymore. Yo-Yo's behaviour, though repugnant even to her keeper, is completely natural. In the wild, the second twin would have died anyway. Wulong has successfully increased the overall survival rate of panda cubs, mainly by rearing twins, something that would never happen in the wild. In this case, Mother Nature has prevailed. Late October, just 6 weeks after Yo-Yo gave birth. "99% of a giant panda's growth and development happens after birth. So Yo-Yo's surviving firstborn cub can now see and hear when she's the right way up. She weighs almost 2 kilos, about 20 times more than at birth. But next door, her neighbour, Hua Mei, is alone without either of her cubs. One is in the nursery, of course, having been swapped. But the other is outside with a very concerned keeper.
元宝，出来了。那走，你这有可能过过的去。行，你看最多看看有没得啥子眼屎啊，要的。他那个不一定是找到。他有点流出来了。他不一定是找到。他可能是啥子分泌物啊，啥东西搞的。但很有可能是找到。有啥东西？那个我们转最大的。你看他发那个眼屎啊。我刚才以为长啥子，我眼睛这，我检验这样子，眼皮他也不动。
To the keeper's obvious relief, It doesn't seem to be a serious eye problem, but Hua Mei's cub is taken to the nursery for a checkup just in case. It's not the only one. Mao Mao's cub is also being brought in with an upset stomach. The cub was absolutely silent when born, and everyone worried she might have suffocated, but she's since clearly found her voice. And back at the breeding pens, her mother Mao Mao is equally loud and very aggressive towards her neighbours. Whether she's distressed about her sick cub or suffering some sort of postnatal aggression, no one's sure. It might even be a bad reaction to a new panda on the block. She may. It looks like Lulu may become a father again. Happily, Hua Mei and Mao Mao's cubs have both been given the all clear and have returned from the nursery. Like the rest of this season's newborn cubs, it's highly likely they'll survive into adulthood. As safe within Wulong's walls, pandas are no longer an endangered species. Quite the contrary.
其实就是应该这么说，因为目前来说，就是繁殖的多，其实对我们来说是一种压力。对我们来说，现在没有太大的意思。你繁殖太多，就是对我们来说，因为我们知道我们现在这个范围就非常小，就是说你现在发展的话，就是说现在一种局限性了已经。我们就下一步重点的话，应该是在野外培训这块，就是培训做过野外犯规，然后就是这些研究。
The way forward for Wulong lies outside the walls. For the planet's pandas to be truly safe from extinction, at least some of Wulong's pandas must be released into the wild, and that's the next challenge. Will these pandas that have been artificially bred and handled by humans since birth have any chance of survival when faced by the forces of nature?